The Isle of Vigils was a once booming settlement within the Etrian Luminant, being a safe haven for new players looking to learn the basics of Deepwoken. However, as time progressed, it quickly became a ghost town, proving obsolete in comparison to its sister settlement of Etris. What did the Isle of Vigils have to offer during its heyday, and what led to its eventual downfall in popularity? Let's dig a little deeper. When Deepwoken was first released, the learning curve new players had to overcome was far greater than it is now. Seeing as there was no tutorial back then, players were thrown in without knowing the ins and outs of the game. However, Deepwoken offered a do-it-yourself solution for the issue: the Isle of Vigils. The Isle of Vigils was an amazing starter island for a game without a tutorial. It was jam-packed with various NPCs and events that would help players get a grasp of the core mechanics of Deepwoken. I think a large deal of its popularity with the players came from the feeling of a discovery it gave people when they would talk to NPCs or find new areas of the island they didn't know about. Because of the lack of instruction on what to do or where to go, a lot of the player base felt as if they were uncovering new features of the game as they went on within the island. That sense of discovery was what pulled a lot of players further into the game, and what I believe to be a key factor for the fond memories I have of this place. When spawning into the island, your character is woken up inside of the ginormous Inn of Vigils. The inn could prove troublesome to traverse at first, but after getting a bearing for your surroundings, you'll find yourself standing on the top floor. In front of you is an Etrian NPC going by the name of Aristo. When interacted with, the NPC will greet you, leaving you the opportunity to respond to him with 4 different lines of dialogue. After talking to Aristo, we find out that he was the one who brought us here to the settlement, taking us in after we washed up on the shore. He tells us that we can sell our items at the antiquarian, and reveals rumors of riches to be claimed at an island known as Arisha. We also learn of Bargain's Forge, reminding us that we still have no armor on, and sends us off with 25 notes. During the interaction, we also discover that becoming stronger is a process guided by training items, which we'll touch on later. After exiting the inn, we can see a mountainous village connected by various bridges and pathways. A temple can be seen from afar, with its stair-riddled approach being manned by 2 temple guards. This is where the game truly starts to feel alive, as this is where most players will encounter the first event they see in the game. On occasion, 2 bandits will attempt to overcome the Blade Temple guards. However, they're swiftly put down by the swordsmen. This event shaped a lot of the player's perspective of the game, because if a player were to choose to help the guards defend against the bandits, oftentimes they would end up hitting the guards, not thinking too much of it. However, it would soon become apparent that these protectors could just as quickly become aggressors.
Super chat.
I gotta get my revenge.
Please
Shut up.
play Getting Over It again. Sebastian Kujba donated 17 Danish kroner through Super Chat. I love you, Speed FR.
Bro. Ain't fucking screwed.
Passing by the guard and walking up the stairs, we enter the temple itself, being greeted by 2 opposing entrances with a guard kneeling in front of a pond. Entering the left path leads us to another branching area, with signs directing us to locations of various NPCs and interactables. Taking the left once again will lead us to the lower level of the temple. This area includes multiple quest NPCs for endgame progression, a blacksmith, and a sparring instructor. Players are also able to purchase a selection of training items within the sparring room, having the ability to put these training items into use right away with the sparring instructor's help. This is where the large majority of the player base actually learned the ins and outs of Deepwoken's combat. I remember myself spending 2 to 3 days in the sparring room alone, just trying to figure out how to parry its attacks, let alone counterattack without dying. Every so often I'll visit Vigils for a quest and hear the clanking of swords below me. And during those brief moments, I smile a little inside because I know that whoever is fighting the instructor is more than likely learning and discovering new things about the game, just like I did so long ago. That sparring room is where a lot of my nostalgia for the Isle of Vigils lies, and I'm sure many other players can resonate with that sentiment. Going back up and taking the right path will lead us to the library. In this library, we can find a mantra modifying table, an NPC that gives you spell shout, an NPC that can give you an additional mantra if you complete his quest, a guy that tells you to go away because he's too busy researching things, an NPC that talks about seeing ghosts, and the location of all of the manual-based training items. Walking out of the library, we are led to the other initial entrance of the temple, which doesn't have much to offer, only containing dead ends. The temple as a whole has almost everything a new player needs to learn the game and how to play it. It offers assistance in understanding the combat, gives clues to the player as to what is happening within the game's world, and acts as a safe zone for players to avoid the grasp of people looking to grip them. In addition to this, the area is sprawling with pleasant architecture, not to mention the serene music which accompanies the Isle of Vigils. The amazing sound design of Deepwoken flows throughout the whole island. As we walk through the area, we are followed by the chirping of birds, and we can hear the rhythmic clinking of the blacksmith's hammer from across the whole island. It really helps to escalate the level of immersion the game is able to output, and it's one of Deepwoken's strongest areas regarding the quality of its world building. Heading towards the docks, Dreffa can be found leaning against a log. Interacting with Dreffa gives you the lumber axe, which introduced another mechanic of Deepwoken, wood and campfires. Moving past Dreffa, we arrive at the bank and antiquarian. While the bank has no use as of now, the antiquarian will buy items off of you in exchange for notes, teaching the player, once again, another key component to Deepwoken, the note system, a form of currency used to purchase items and services. Moving down from the antiquarian, we meet Cumberland, who is similar to the antiquarian in the fact that they'll purchase items off of you. However, they only purchase mantra modifiers, asking for you to show them shiny and they will give you sand dollar. Sliding down once again, we can hear the sizzle of a stovetop cooking up mushroom omelets. Here we see Lance's brother operating Lance's food. He has a quest for us to deliver some food supplies, which, if completed, will reward us with 25 notes. We are also able to purchase food here, reminding the player of the thirst and hunger bar. We're also able to reassure the unhappy brother of Lance that we will remember his name. However, we actually seem to miss the man's name, so the character just decides on it being Keith. Exhausting his dialogue leads to a funny little bit of you just not being able to hear his name, blaming it on a drowned god at work, and ultimately leaving Keith's real name to never be discovered. Entering the docks, many NPCs can be spotted. Barry will teach you the recipe for a campfire pit. Zana, representing the average two-mintless katana-wielding Metamancer, will give you a poser's ring if you complete their quest. And the shipwright introduces the seafaring side of Deepwoken, allowing you to travel from island to island via your dinghy. You may think that this must be it for all of the notable NPCs and aspects of the Isle of Vigils. However, there is another side of the isle we have yet to discuss. Going across another bridge, we can find Freed, sitting at a campfire. If you have Gale Magic, you can talk to him to upgrade your mantras. If you don't already have Gale Magic, you can bring him 5 Gale Stones to obtain Gale Breath. Going back and past the temple, we're led down a path which takes us to the barber. On the way there, we can find a well-kept grave sporting a Vesperian mask. Entering the house, we find the barber, which we are able to talk to change our hairstyle. We also find the training items for each of the different attunements here. In addition to this, there's a breakable door in the wall by this area, and when broken into, you can find 4 chests waiting to be opened and looted. Well, that was a lot of information to take in. We've pretty much summarized all of Vigils and its interactables and notable NPCs. But everything I've described is what helped to make the Isle of Vigils such an iconic location. It taught players the ropes when the game first released, and still does every so often. But when I travel to the Isle of Vigils, I've noticed now more than ever it feels empty. The island fell off in popularity among players as the starter island of choice, with most players opting for Etris instead. This was due to a multitude of reasons. On one hand, the player base had grown more experienced. There really was no reason for them to spawn at the Isle of Vigils if they had already become familiar with the game's mechanics. Especially if Etris was more convenient not only for traveling quickly to other locations, but also its more easily traversed layout. While the Isle of Vigils offered a much safer and peaceful locale, Etris simply outclasses it in almost every other aspect, containing things such as a weapon shop, mystic NPC, teleportation shrines, and so many other features for players to interact with. While Etris most definitely is my preferred starter island, the Isle of Vigils will always have a place in my heart and many others. While it may not be a home for our Deepwoken characters anymore, it surely is a home for our shared nostalgia, and I hope to one day see it booming once again like it used to.